Hey everyone, Fabio here. We're in Nooktown Studios, and today we're going to check out a mix that I did a few months ago, I believe a little over 6 months ago, for the band MTTM. The name of the song is The Flow. It came out this week. It should be available in all the streaming platforms, so make sure to go and listen to it if you like the song. It's on the post-punky, dark wavy side. The band is really cool. There's some super nice guys from Brazil that live in Berlin. And without further ado, let's jump into the Pro Tools session. All right, so here you can see it was actually a pretty straightforward mix in terms of instrumentation and arrangement. We have some electronic drums. We have a couple layers of bass. Then guitars are not really guitars. They're just like guitar-y synths, or what I treated them as guitars, essentially. There's some keys, some synths, pads, a couple of sound effects, and then a few layers of vocals and some effects and so on and so forth. So I guess we can start with drums. Let's pull these guys up, open the folders. Let's take a listen to the drums raw, just by themselves. So as you can see, it's obviously electronic drums. We have I believe, they were using the Lin samples from the old drum machine. And we ended up sticking with the main kick. It sounded really cool and punchy. Not a lot of processing going on, just some EQ. Actually, no compression, to be fair. It was already very stable, so it was, a lot of this mix, it turned out to be mostly just cleaning up and balancing and making sure everything works instead of having to shape things from scratch. In any case, that's the kick. Then we had the main snare, also their sample with minimal processing, just some EQ. Just cutting some high end here and some compression, it seems like, and balancing, of course. Then I actually added my own room sample to expand the snare sound, it make it more like stereo and sort of like 80s, the very splashy gated reverb sort of snare. You can take a listen to that. And with the original snare. Without the sample. Just adds a little bit of extension. Then with the kick. I just noticed that we're listening to this guy as well. Especially I guess the whole drum kit was going through this parallel compressor, and then the kick and snare are going through my crunch compressor distortion thing. I just have a devil lock there. Adds a lot of dirt to the drums and adds some cool movement to the kick and snare. This guy was going through one of my outboard DBX compressors, and then I just printed it down. Let's see, the toms, they're very laser gun sort of toms. They're really cool. And then we have the cymbals and hi-hats. Oops. Yeah, there's some more percussion stuff. There's more effects and things that come in and out and move side to side that are kind of interesting in the context of the mix. Like here, for example. Yeah, we're just playing around trying to be creative with where we placed things. Now, if we move on down, here I have my bass and guitar section. Even though there are no actual guitars, one of the synths I basically decided to call a guitar and treat it like a rhythm guitar. Actually, a couple of them. But if we move down, there's a sub. I don't know how well that will come out on especially phone speakers, but it's basically the same line that this guy here is playing. I just translated that to MIDI and then printed out one of my like go-to sub sounds from Moog. Then we have this guy. And these two are just very like consistent, holding down the bottom end and making sure everything is working there with the kick. Then we have, I guess would be, well, I treated them as like, again, main rhythm guitars, but they're like the main theme of the song. This is what keeps repeating the whole way through. And then on and off it gets paired with this saw here. They're essentially playing the same notes, just kind of different register, different sounds to enhance the landscape, I guess. Then we move on to some other like synthy stuff that there's like some lead stuff, there's some like paddy stuff, some stringy stuff. Well, let's just listen to them one by one. There's a really cool hook that happens in the chorus. Let's see what this guy is doing. This was one of my favorite sounds of the whole thing because it gives you that like uneasy vibe, and it happens in both verses here. And just in context, I'll play the whole song and push that up so you can really feel it. Such a cool little sound. Then we have this lead synth here. Which actually has a fun trick. I basically threw the little alto boy and pitched it up a whole octave just to add a little bit more sheen to the top of it. This is what it sounds like in solo. And it's sort of like a little bit too distorted, but it's low in level, so it just kind of enhances the other one. That trick actually comes up here again, but it's the other way around. Then we have the Selena stuff. So mostly, although this is not really, I guess it's like a, yeah, I guess it's like another leady thing on this section. And then we have the actual like pad stuff. Let's see. Oh, some like paddy leads, I guess. Then we have the first actual pad. And then this guy, again with the trick, but on the other way down where I'm bringing down a whole octave and adding some distortion to just kind of beef up the whole sound. I'm gonna play it and take the low octave down. And all this pad stringy stuff together. Yeah, the only, if I can say, the only actual issue I had with this mix, it was not really much of an issue, it's just something that we had to be aware of, is at some points there were a few too many melodies going on, so we had to pick and choose and do a lot of automation to make sure that we're emphasizing the things that need to be emphasized on each step, and just kind of bringing down some of the stuff that is a little less important in that moment on the song. Then here we have some like wave sounds that kind of come up and down in different parts of the song. It was very noticeable in the intro, but it does come up here and there, like on the bridge section and on the outro. And then we are left with vocals to check out. So let's open these guys up. I mean, it was fairly simple. There are a few like main layers of vocals. There's like the main, obviously the lead vocal here, which I separated like verse and chorus. Then we have a double, and then we have a few layers of like harmonies to go along with it. And especially here, there's some like other textury stuff that was going on. I'll play the vocals, like all of them in solo, so you can hear what the harmonies are doing, because they're really cool.
Are miles away from home, from yesterday. Where was I?
I mean, as you can see, it's very wet and the harmonies add a lot. As far as processing on the vocal itself, like the lead vocal, there's not too much going on. There's some EQ, de-essing, compression, another bit of EQ, then another de-esser, and a tiny bit of this like doubler thing just for the texture. It's kind of sounds a little phasey. And in their rough mix they had, I think it was the ADT on the lead vocal group, and it sounded kind of cool, so we're trying to approximate that effect. And then finally on the actual bus here, there's some additional EQ. Yeah, just a little bump at 1.6K, and then off into reverbs and all the other stuff. There might be some parallel stuff going on. Oh, there we go. On the chorus, I do actually have a micro shift in parallel and a saturation, like parallel saturation track. It's basically blowing up this preamp section of the 1073. It's kind of subtle, but it adds a little bit of presence and character. And yeah, as far as reverbs, I have a whole bunch of vintage verb. I had just bought this like plugin maybe like a month or two prior to doing this mix, so I was just testing it out and everything. And like the 80s sort of vibe that you can take out of that one is really cool. I'm also using Manny, good old Manny. There's a spring from the tape echo from UAD. And then these two I'm generally using for like very long throws, so something that I want to like kind of explode way in the background. It's probably like a 10 or 15 second, decay time on that one. And the supermassive, there's a ton of processing going on. There's some de-essing, which tells me it's a vocal thing. Okay. Oh yeah, and this is a cool effect. Let's see if we can kind of isolate it.
Lights are miles away from.
So sort of like chipmunky thing, but you don't really hear it. It just adds to the ambience. And yeah, like on top of that, so like everything ends up here on these 4 channels or 8 channels. So it's like all drums, all bass, all guitars, all synths, all pads, all sound effects, and then all backgrounds and lead vocals. This first instance of Pro Q here, that's on pretty much everyone, is not doing much. It's mostly like little fixes here and there, probably towards the end of the mix. and then except for like drums have a lot of stuff going on. I pulled the Jason Joshua trick with all the NLS buses stacked up. Really, really cool, interesting thing that it does to the low end is really nice. Then a little bit more EQ on the, this is the drum bus essentially. Some saturation and clipping. And yeah, here's also where I'm doing like most of the side chaining stuff. So side chaining all the basses from the kick using Soothe, so it's very transparent. There's also some like side chaining going on from the lead vocal to everything just in the mid channel and mid side, so everything ducks out of the way of the lead vocal a little bit. And actually from here everything breaks out into the console as I mentioned, and then they come back here on my mix bus. There's some processing going on as well. There's a tiny bit of EQ, some compression, some multiband compression, very light, like maybe half a dB or 1 dB tops. A tiny bit of a smiley face EQ with a pull tack. This guy is not really doing anything. It's just, well, the mono maker is on and there's a little bit of widening going on. It's quite nice EQ, but yeah, the EQ itself is not really doing much. There's a little bit of EQ matching to white noise. This is something that I like to do sometimes towards the end of a mix. It's kind of like a safety check for me. If I feel like a mix is close to being done, I'll do the profile and hear what the EQ matching is doing, and if it's doing too much, I might need to go and fix some things. In this case, it added a little bit of high end, and that's mostly it, so I left it in. It sounded a little bit better with it. Then we go into a little bit more saturation. Now, this is more of my transparent area, except the inflator is not too transparent, but this is my like loud section. This guy just bumps up the level a whole bunch without increasing peak level at all. Then the inflator is 20%, so it's still fairly subtle. And then I go into a clipper and the limiter, and that's pretty much it for this mix. I mean, these are the revision passes and the rough mix, and then finally these are all the prints that I delivered to them. We had the usual stuff, so it's like a loud mix, which they're using for the master, I believe, and then a quiet mix, which is pretty much everything except for these last two plugins. Then every group individually, going straight from here, like not going through any of the bus processing. And then we went ahead and did every track individually because they wanted to have tracks for live sessions. So I printed literally everything, so kick, snare, like every element essentially was bounced down into its own like mixed little stem so they could use it live. And that is it for the flow. Maybe let's play a like bit of the end section here so you guys can have a feel for the song again. So that's it. That was the flow. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to check out the links in the description as well. They'll be linking to both MTTM and this new song. It's come out again beginning of this week, and make sure to take a listen and enjoy.